Hello and welcome everyone, I am Madals. Welcome to Heart of the Swarm, StarCraft 2 beta. We have got a ladder game today. Let me introduce you to the two players. The Red Terran is playing for Madals Esports. It is Hero Marine. And his opponent in the top right is going to be Team Dignitas's JonnyREcco, the Blue Zerg. So, ZVT, I haven't cast one of these for a while on Heart of the Swarm, and as such, I'm pretty happy. It seems like every game at the moment on Heart of the Swarm seems to feature either Zerg or Protoss. Like, there's been loads of ZVZs, loads of ZVPs, loads of PvPs. Terran seem somewhat difficult to find good replays for, but then of course Hero Marine released the replay pack and I was like, yay! Also, you get quite a lot of Protoss players releasing replay packs at the moment, and that just meant that I was getting quite a few PVTs, which is a great matchup. I like that one. But back to this game. It's on Antigua Shipyard, force cross spawns. What should they be building? Recco should go for a 15 hatch, 16 pool, almost certainly. Meanwhile, Marine should go for a 1 racks command center. That is just my prediction, based on the fact that that is the standard metagame. Neither player has much different they can do early on. The only thing that we may see, it's a really slim possibility, is if we see a gas fairly shortly, Marine could decide to go for a Reaper, just because you can come up here and you can come in and start doing some damage. But Reapers aren't that great against Zerg, just because Queens deal with them very well. So, all in all, it's probably much more likely to be the 1 racks command center style play, then into the double gas, then the factory reactor. Since some Terrans actually quite like going Widow Mines, it just allows you to be both offensive and defensive, do a little bit of damage, can be frustrating for a Zerg player to deal with. Others just stick with Hellions, and Hellion drops I know is something that JonnyREcco is not too happy with, or rather Hellbat drops. And speed medevacs are apparently the bane of his life in the beta, so cannot blame him. They are ridiculously strong, but if you deal with them effectively, it can be interesting. The reason they're so strong, I should clarify, is because Hellbats are biological, and therefore medevacs can heal them, which means it's really quite difficult to deal with, especially with speedlings. And so a lot of Zerg players are almost being bottlenecked into getting roaches out at around, well, really quite early on actually, usually before the kind of 7:30 mark, 8 minutes, they want to get roaches hitting. So due to that, it does direct a Zerg player in towards going Roach Hydra, which is really strong to be fair, and then usually they go for Swarm Hosts are a possibility. Vipers, very common, just Blinding Cloud is great against Terran as a Zerg. So that's just a rough idea of what we could be seeing, but for the moment I went a bit sidetracked there. Marine getting up the command center, double gas, so this is what's to be expected. Meanwhile, the Overlord just floating its way over here, and this poor little Overlord, he doesn't really know what to do. He's just going to go and have a look. This is the adventures of an Overlord. Like, for anyone who wonders, Overlord's lives are incredibly boring. All they do is float around pretty much, just ever so slowly. Like, aren't you bored watching this poor Overlord? That's what their life's like. Always. And then they die because something shoots at them, and they have no way of defending themselves. Seriously, if Overlords existed in real life, there would be a charity designed to save them. Now, back to the game, and less about the protection for Overlords in the intergalactic area. We do have the bunker coming down, some Marines out here, the factory on its way, the reactor on its way. Meanwhile, for Recco, getting up his 2nd and 3rd queen. We'll maybe go up to 4 queens, we'll wait to see. Generally speaking, if you've got 3, it tends to stick that way. So we'll wait to see what Recco decides to do, but he's getting up his first 2 gas now. These timings are fairly normal, to be honest, but the thing you need to be aware of that if you've got an opponent who's got a quick natural, such as Marine's gone for, Recco does need to consider taking his 3rd or putting on some serious pressure. But Mech seems to be the option of choice out of Marine at the moment. He does have a 2nd factory now on its way out, so this just opens up some more options to him. We've got, of course, the Starport coming out, Hellions coming out, no sign of an armory yet though, so no Hellbats for the time being, but now here comes the 3rd, so this is starting just to look like your standard game for the most part, just a meching Terran against a Zerg who is doing mass droning, mass base taking. It's what we should all be used to seeing, it should be what we expect for the most part. But things start getting funky once we see the armory for the Terran and Hellbat start making a show. The fact that tanks no longer require siege mode just means there's some nice little timing pushes, and indeed, here comes down the armory actually. So that just means that very soon these Hellbats are going to get shown, and as a result you can run into some problems. But for the moment it's just the Hellions, which REcco has got lots of experience dealing with. He's getting his Roach Warren up now as well, so he's ready to start getting those Roaches for around the 8-minute mark, which is really when you want them in order to deal with it, and we can see how this is all starting to sync up as well now, so that's good news. But for the most part, this is going to be fairly harassment based. We do have the first medevac coming out though, and that's when you can get Hellbat drops, and that's when things get very, very scary indeed for Zergs. Hellbats, especially being in a position like here, even with Roaches, it can be a little bit difficult to deal with them. So the 3 Roaches that are coming out now, we may see a bit more of a commitment, but for the moment the double evolution chamber on its way. Waiting to see what comes out from that lair tech, whether we're going to see an infestation pit for swarm hosts or infestors, whether we're going to see a Hydra den to go Roach Hydra. Lots of different things we can do, but 4 Hellbats queued up, and is it going to be a double Hellbat drop? Oh my goodness, the second medevac's getting ready. Is it going to be 1 Hellbat drop into the third, one into the main, both into the main? I just don't know, but we do have what is 4 Roaches out, 3 more on the way, so hopefully REcco should be able to defend this. Now, where are they even? Well, okay, so he is preparing for this. I don't know if he knows it's coming in, but he does have some Roaches sitting, getting ready. It's a very common strategy, this Hellbat drop. So, he is in a good preparation position to deal with this, but just 3 Roaches are going to have trouble using the boost upgrade, and now straight on top of the Roaches, get a complete surround. Those Roaches get absolutely destroyed near instantaneously, and as such, all 8 of those Hellbats do survive for the time being. This is incredibly frustrating when this happens. We can see that quite a few drones are going down, 8 already been killed. REcco pulling back, trying to defend as best he can for the time being, but Hellbats are ridiculously strong. 6 more Roaches on their way through. The medevac's not even being controlled. They should really come over and start healing up these damaged Hellbats, but to be honest, REcco is now in a bit of a tight spot. Those medevacs lifting up the Hellbats yet again, but the Queens are there. He's got to be careful. You don't know what he's using those medevacs. Is one going to fall? No, just manages to get back. But the Roaches are able to clean this out now, it would seem. But a couple of drones are getting caught out of position there. They try to go back to mining perhaps a bit prematurely. But now you're just stuck in a point where actually these drones having to run away. The Roaches coming back in. But was that a successful attack? 14 dead drones would say yes, it was. Only 700 resources lost for Marine compared to 1850. For REcco. In terms of the work count, that now puts us pretty much bang on equal, 46 to 48 in favour of the Terran. The third command centre was completed behind this. We've got Widow Mines coming out. So those of you who do play Terran, if you really want to be frustrating to a Zerg player, go Hellbat drops into Widow Mines, and then you know that you can't get much more irritating than that. That is enough to make most Zerg players just smash their keyboards, throw their computer out the window, and GG for life, because it is tough to deal with, and I'm playing random, and that is probably my worst nightmare of anything that could happen. But here comes in the Hellbat towards the third base. They're getting dropped straight on top of those medevacs so quick with boosts, and now we do see the Roaches are getting taken down. We see not much is left here, and a couple of infestors trying to come out as well, but they're not going to be too helpful. Just one infestor there, so REcco trying to micro his drones away. This Hellbat drop is doing oh so much damage, and only a handful of Roaches there coming in to try and deal with it, but just such great drone control out of REcco right now. He's trying to get them all out there, trying to keep as many alive as he can, but he's going to inevitably lose quite a few when you've just got so many Hellbats in the third base. Now lost 24 workers, and unfortunately they're coming back. They're long-range mining, which is not what you want. REcco just on the move command, just on the rally point there, but it has been cleaned up now. The third base is getting taken though from Marine, and he's going for a full mech force. He's getting more Hellbats out, getting more tanks, and he's also got those Widow Mines sitting around. What has REcco got? Well, he's starting to get out more infestors. That's good news for him. He's got the 1-1 melee and armor. He hasn't started enduring Locust, so he doesn't appear to be aiming to go swarm host this game for the time being. Instead, just going to go Roach Infestor to try and deal with this. It's a good thing to do. Could do with some Vipers in the late game just to negate the effect of siege tanks with Blinding Cloud, maybe get some Abducts, and then you're really into a solid position. But for the time being at least, it looks like Johnny is gonna be safe from any more of those Hellbat drops. Just for the moment, Hero Marine sitting back, getting up a nice siege line. He knows he's secured his third base, and that unfortunately puts a lot of pressure on a Zerg to take a fourth. And where you take your fourth can be very awkward. You can potentially take a risk in the center, but then of course the high ground is just so advantageous, and holding that high ground is already so important on this map. Or you can try and take this fourth, where you knock out the rocks and just creep spread your way across. But not an easy fourth base to take on this map. That's the problem with it. And it looks like more dropping is going to be going down. We've got to scan in the main base just to see what's there. We'll see that a couple of roaches have just sat there waiting, ready for these Hellbats should they be coming in. And as such, Recco shouldn't have too much problem trying to hold this off. He's got a drone coming to take this fourth actually, but does get spotted by a Viking. So now this is completely in the knowledge of Marine. He's going to be able to prepare that any way he wants. This drop is still queuing up, ready to go. The Viking landing is just going to start chipping away, but that just means Speedlings are going to come over to try and rescue it, and it will be able to rescue it. There's no way a Viking can take down a hatchery. They may be able to land in front of an Ultralisk and give it a good shot, but not a hatchery. And if anyone didn't get the reference to the Heart of the Swarm cinematic, then you should go and check that out, because it is so good. And you will find out the landing Vikings in front of Ultras is always a bad idea, and only ever should be done if the Viking pilot is very, very drunk. Now, back to the game. Mech Force is looking very sizable. Very, very sizable. 123 army supply. 129 now. Recco trying to get his Ultra Cabin out. He's trying to get the 2-2 upgrades out, and he's trying to spread his units as best he can to try and deal with this. But my goodness, tank, oh tank, there are lots of you here, 14 in total to be exact. And now with the Hellbats pushing forward, the scans pushing back the creep, this is going to be a difficult engagement. Meanwhile, Hellbat drops are going on in the main base, but they've got cleaned up fairly easily. But that meant a lot of Recco's army was pulled back, and as such, we have got a good number of units coming in. The Infested trying to lure some Infested Terrans down, trying to break this push. The Roach is streaming in the Infested Terrans, dealing some nice damage to a few of the tanks, soaking up a bit of damage as well. And Recco looking as though he should just, and I mean just, be able to hold this. He's trying to take out the tank. It's going to be pretty close, but there's more tanks back there. The siege line is apparently never ending. Will this forward tank fall? Not quite, survives with just 10 health, but Ultras are on the way. The rest of these tanks are going to start moving forward. The reinforcements coming in as well. Such great production and macro out of Marine for the time being. For Recco, he's got some swarm hosts there. He's trying to burrow them up. There goes down a single scan, forcing them back further out the way of the tank. The third base for the Zerg is potentially in a lot of problems for the time being, and a Hellbat drop coming into the main base. Seriously, Hero Marine likes doing these Hellbat drops. He's coming in, he's trying to do as much damage as he can, getting them right in a tight choke as well, so Speedlings can't get this round. More drones going down. Meanwhile, the third base is getting besieged, and the natural base is just being protected by a couple of swarm hosts. Ultras, though, are now out. They need to be very careful, though. They are only 2-2 Ultras. The tanks are shredding them with that damage, and I think with this, with the fact is that we're going to see the game over, and Marine is going to win, and Recco clearly not happy after those Hellbat drops. So yeah, Hellbat drops do a lot of damage is the moral of the story, and that was the game. So if you enjoyed, make sure you like, make sure you leave a cool comment, and make sure you subscribe, and I will see you all tomorrow for yet another new game. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.